right, welcome back for our next event. Next up, we are having a panel discussion, and I'd like to invite Luke Pavia up to introduce our panelists.
Hi, everyone. Like Kathleen said, my name is Luke, and I have the honor of introducing our great panel members this morning. First is Kristyn Steckler. She is the co-founder, owner, and designated broker of the CRA Group, a boutique commercial real estate company based in Bismarck. A Bismarck native, she earned her bachelor's degree in business administration and marketing from the University of Mary in 2009. Kristyn is a graduate of the North Dakota's Women's Leadership Program, Dale Carnegie Training, and Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, where she now serves as the alumni ambassador for North Dakota. She is currently enrolled in the Bismarck-Mandan Chamber's EDC's Leadership Program and the Commercial Real Estate Women's Network Leadership Certificate Program, an international organization dedicated to advancing women in commercial real estate. In 2024, Kristyn was honored as a recipient of the Bismarck-Mandan Chamber EDC's 20 Under 40 Award, recognizing her contributions to the Bismarck business community. Outside of the office, she enjoys many outdoor activities, including camping, hunting, and spending time on her small ranch in southeast Bismarck with her husband and 2 children. Our next member of the panel is Lieutenant Colonel Murphy. Lieutenant Colonel Murphy's military service began in 1988 when he enlisted in the 188th Air Defense Artillery. He received a direct commission in 2005 as a second lieutenant. Murphy's first mobilization was in 2003 with the 129th Mobile Public Affairs Detachment. His second deployment, he served as the detachment commander for the 129th Mobile Public Affairs Detachment, supporting U.S. Central Command from April 2006 to June 2007. Murphy was assigned in April of 2009 to lead the public affairs effort for the North Dakota National Guard's KFOR 12 mission. In this capacity, Murphy was responsible for the overall public affairs activities of more than 1,000 soldiers of this multinational force serving overseas in Kosovo. Murphy is concurrently serving as the NDNG Director of Human Resources and the Domestic Operations Deputy Director in Bismarck, North Dakota. Murphy graduated from the University of Mary in Bismarck, North Dakota in 2001 with a Bachelor of Science degree in Management and a Master's degree in Organizational Leadership in 2025. Murphy has chaired and served on numerous volunteer committees to include the Bismarck Midget Football League, AWANA, Director for his church, President Bismarck High School Football Boosters, Committee Lead for the Legacy High School Volleyball, Girls Basketball, Legacy High School Concession Board President, Bismarck High School Football Foundation President, and Bisman Basketball Officials Association President. Murphy has served overseas in Uganda, Africa, Iraq, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Kosovo. Murphy and his wife Laura reside in Bismarck. Please help me in welcoming these panel members.
It's great to have you guys here. Let's just recenter ourselves, refocus ourselves on what we have to do here for getting rid of this buzz. Not sure why it's happening. Sarah will take care of that for us. Thank you, Father. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you again for allowing us to gather. And we know where 2 or more are gathered in your name, you are also present. Help us to always remain present with you. Bless these speakers, and may their words be your words. And allow those who are listening to listen with the ear of the heart. And help to guide them along the path that you've chosen for each one of them. And maybe something that they've heard here sends them and enlightens and illuminates what God has called them to do. We ask all of this in your name. Amen. So, Kristyn, tell us a little bit about yourself that like the bio might not have covered, or just that people might need to know. And tell us a little bit about the rise to how you've gotten to where you're at.
Yeah, so I graduated from UMary in 2009, like my bio said. And then after that, I went to work for my parents. They owned a garage door company in town. They had just lost their admin, and I didn't know where I wanted to end up. So I said, okay, I'll take that position. So I was at the front desk doing all of their advertising, marketing. And while I was there, I got the sense of like, I need to do more. I don't know what that is, but I want to do more. So while I was working there, I got my real estate license and was doing residential on the side, just part-time. Through that, my dad had some commercial property, so I knew some of the commercial agents, but never was that ever on my radar. And then through some, I call them God winks, I had met my business partner. I'll explain a little bit about that. It was kind of funny. So I went to a friend's baby shower. It was like a barbecue thing, so everybody was there. And I had seen this guy, and I was like, oh, hey. I knew him from my dad doing transactions with him. And then the very next night, my family and I were at a Larks baseball game, and he happened to sit in the row in front of us. And then I was like, oh, gosh, I just saw you last night. And I didn't know this at the time, but he recognized me, but didn't know who I was or could not put a face to a name. And then this part I did not know at the time. A week later, he ran into my dad at a job site. And my dad was telling him, oh yeah, Kristyn has her real estate license now, but it's just residential. It'll never be commercial or anything like you're doing. And he was thinking, well, why the heck not? And then he did some research on me and was like, oh, Kristyn, she's a graduate of UMary. So he called one of my former professors and asked a bunch of questions. And Carl put in a great word for me. So Kyle is his name. He called me one day and was like, hey, I just want to sit down and have some coffee. I want to run some things by you. He was really busy in the position that he was at a different organization and wanted to bring someone on, but he wasn't advertising for that and thought maybe this is something you want to do. So through a series of conversations, I determined that maybe this is something I should do, and I jumped in. And a couple years later, we determined that where we were at was not aligning with our values, and we wanted to do something different. So we started CRA in 2019. 5 years later, which was just this January 3rd, I bought out his other half of the company, so I'm the sole owner of that now. So.
Incredible rise.
Yeah.
Something you never thought that you would do.
No, never.
That's crazy. Murph, how about you?
Well, truth be told, Carl, that was a pretty long bio.
I didn't write.
So I don't know it's really missing much. Second lesson of the day, I'll tailor that and cut that down a little bit more for the next time. Obviously looking around the room, I think maybe the father and I are probably the oldest ones in here. So my career in the military, I put the uniform on in 1988, and that was kind of at that point I didn't realize it was a call to service, and we'll get into more of that. At that point it was just how am I going to pay for college. In 2001 or thereabouts, I did my undergrad through the UMary, and then in 2024, that's not a typo, I had a personal goal to get my master's degree done. Really no impact necessarily on my career as far as promotions or anything, but just a personal goal. So I finished that in 2024 May timeframe, and in June I started a second master's program. That one is more for work related, but just kind of that, education for life type of deal. You never stop learning and you never stop growing. So my lovely wife, Laura, who is also an employee at the University of Mary, is here today. So I would not be sitting here or be anything, quite frankly, if it wasn't for her. She's the rock, right? So a lot of deployments, a lot of time away from kids, family, and all that. And she's the one that literally kept it all together and has made me really who I am. So that's kind of the granular piece of who I am, Carl.
That's great. And sister and I are very grateful for you making that statement that, you might be the oldest ones in the room.
Yeah.
We really appreciate that.
I wasn't going to point out the sister, Carl.
Okay. I know that she was very thankful. I saw that in her eyes. So a couple questions here. We love to bring alumni in to talk about this on the day of formation. You've experienced the Benedictine values while you're here as students. And that's a little more difficult in the online world, but we tried to increase that and instill that necessity and person's life. What has resonated with either one of you? And I'll start with Kristyn. Some of the Benedictine values that you've either applied to your personal or your professional life as you've developed into the career that you've developed into.
Actually, all of them in different capacities. I think probably community is one of the biggest ones for me. Community as in the small community of my home with my family and friends, and making sure that I have a stable community there so that I can do things like this. And then that also expands into community as far as this goes, and keeping in touch with Karel, or in our line of work with the real estate side of things. We do a lot with financial institutions, and making sure that we get out there and speak to them and talk to them and collaborate, just to be able to grow the community, and so everyone kind of has a little bit of a pulse on the market. That would be the first one. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. Prayer is really big for me also. Prayer in like giving gratitude for things daily. In the evenings, my husband and I say prayers with our kids at night, so that instills that in them as well. And then, as I was going through those transitions in my career, I guess, like, is this really what you want me to do, God? Is this what you're calling me to do? Leave this very cush, job with my family, to go do something I'm not familiar with. So prayer's been huge that way. And then I think a couple of other ones I have noted too, the respect for persons is huge. It talks about honoring each other in their giftedness and their limitations. Real estate in general is usually a pretty individual career, I guess you could say. And when we started CRA, we wanted it to be more of a team, and leaning on other people for their gifts or their limitations. So, for example, Brett in my office, he was an appraiser for 10 years. He might not be as strong in the medical field of helping people there, but he does our broker opinion and value. I don't really enjoy doing those, so I lean on him and his gifts and talents that way. And we all work as a team, trying to bring out those gifts in each other.
Excellent. Murph, how about you?
So I'm old, and it took me a bit to remember what all the Benedictine values are, so I'm afraid that I'm going to list them out, right? Community, hospitality, moderation, prayer, respect for persons, and service. So really professionally, community is the one I kind of focused in on. I'm in a great vocation. And what I mean by that is my peers, and it seems like folks of your generation walk in the door every single day and become part of the organization I'm part of. And I attribute that to kind of keep me young in of how you think and kind of the way of the world of sorts. Not that you get siloed necessarily in what you do, but your generation brings that youth into my workplace where I work. And so that's why the community piece is very important. Not only as from the Director of Human Resources, I have to understand what makes you tick. I have to understand what makes folks in my generation continue to tick. And so it's a constant challenge. So community is certainly of one, is just understanding that whole. Service. My vocation is all about serving others. My weekend job of sorts is Director of Domestic Operations, and what that means is when there's flood fires, tornadoes, whatever the case in North Dakota, and you see a guard uniform, that's my job to get them ready and respond. I'll tell you, there's nothing more rewarding than to see that and to be able to help your fellow citizen, your fellow North Dakotan in a time of great need. So as we talk about service, I've had the chance to look at it through my eyes onto not only the state of North Dakota, but through deployments around the world, where you do great things and really help people out. Just fills your heart, and it's fantastic. On a personal side, I'm a hospitality guy, right? I'm very welcoming people into my circle. And so that is one. And prayer. And really, from a prayer perspective, that's more focusing on integrity and, simply say is trying to live a good life. None of us are perfect, obviously. We all have our faults. We all fall. But then you lean back into that community where there are folks that will help pick you up, walk alongside you as long as you need until you are able to continue on from there.
Excellent. We talked about the cardinal virtues here: prudence and justice and courage and self-control. You're both in leadership positions here. How do you see yourself being the example for the others that you serve? Yours is probably in a much smaller context, but still you have clients and you have community members. Murph, tell us a little bit about which one of those resonates well with you.
Before you do, new mic. You are going to share and you are going to get your own. Please have one on at a time. Green light on, red light off.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Yes. So, prudence. Tried to say it like it was on the video. I did this one, distance learning. So, and magnanimous. I still don't even think I say it correctly, Carl. So, magnanimity.
There you go.
Right, just does not roll off the tongue. Truth be told, I forgot your question already.
Which one of those really resonates with you as a leader? How do you exhibit those and become an example for the people that you lead?
So I would maybe encapsulate that in prudence as just being centered, grounded. I mentioned it earlier, right? Others before self. And if you focus on that, in my personal opinion, in my life, that seems to be your guiding light. The more that, in my career, the more that I have lifted others up, quite frankly, the more that I have been lifted up, and the more joy I've taken in watching their success. You'll get to a point in your life where that tips over the scale of your own career, is watching those that you have trained, mentored, guided, that you see the success that they are having. And I'll tell you, it just fills your heart, and you're going to love to look back at that at some point in your career. So early on now, seek those people out that are willing to try and train, guide, and mentor. Learn those positive traits, put those in your toolkit, and realize that through your career, you're going to use that. And someday, someone's going to come back and say to you, through prudence, right? Through taking care of me, through even just caring for me, you have absolutely made a difference in my life and my career.
Excellent.
Actually, might go. All of them, I think I use on a daily basis, but in more so with my team and with clients, probably justice. We always try to put our clients first and their needs first. We're not just agents. We actually don't like to be called agents. If you look at CRAs, commercial real estate advisors, right? So we want to be advisors for our clients. We want to help them and make the best decisions possible. And we could say, well, hey, you need to do this deal because it's going to make me more money, but that's not what we're there for. There are different groups in the community that are like that, but that is not us. So I think justice is probably my biggest one that I use on a daily basis and try to lead by. And I think courage, Carl knows I do not like this kind of thing, speaking in front of people. So when he asked me, it took a lot of courage, and I've really forced myself to do it, because then it also shows my team that it's okay to do things out of your comfort zone, because you're going to grow. And even doing this in front of you guys and you knowing that, if it inspires one of you guys to do the same thing, get out of your comfort zone in order to grow, that's huge for me. With the courage side of it too, or the prudence, I guess, making wise decisions. In my bio, you heard that I just joined the CREW, which is Commercial Real Estate Women Network Leadership Certificate Program, and that's on an international level. I got the email saying, hey, you should apply for this, and I had to make those decisions, think about, is my family financially ready and stable for me to be able to do that? Do I have the courage to, I'm the only Commercial Real Estate Women Network member in North Dakota, so I'm the only one. me going there, I had no idea who anybody else was. So for me, the courage to go and do that and put myself out there and learn with other people was huge. So I think those are probably my few main ones.
That's awesome. And let's stick with, we've talked about serving others. We've talked about fraternal humility, the desire to really serve others. We have, as a leader, and you both have talked about it, you're there for the other person. And so then it becomes a situation where we try to instill and make sure that we have an understanding of just what does that mean when we say, oh, I'm here to serve others. What does that mean for you from that fraternal humility side, that you really want to serve others and not be self-serving?
That's a really great question. I think I just try to live that out in everything that I do with my clients. Like I mentioned before, I put them and their needs first. Same with my family and my community. I try to, we talk about time, talents, anything like that. I do donations and sponsorships to different organizations that mean something and that I can help out with, just serving them in different ways like that, different capacities.
That's awesome. It's really important for, I think, these students to be able to hear that it isn't just all about work. Father had talked about that, and we'll get into leisure, but it isn't all about work, because we can't be all about work. And if we put and pour that in there, then we kind of excuse that personal side of why we're working in the first place. Murph, how about you in terms of your service?
Yeah, so fraternal humility to me is helping me find the best in you and helping that to grow. It is not about being a leader of dominance. It is being a leader of community and coordination. We're all in this together. Whether it's in your class, whether it's in life, doesn't make any difference. At work is the same. You will likely face at work, you're going to have really 3 categories of employees. Those that are sitting in the middle of the boat rowing hard. Those that are sitting in the front of the boat just enjoying the view. And those that are sitting in the back of the boat rowing the other direction, the opposite direction. And the fact of the matter is, fraternal humility is trying to figure out how to keep those folks in the middle rowing, right? Compliment them, help them, promote them, those types of things. The ones that are doing nothing, to encourage them to get on board. And those in back, to work with them to figure out how do we reverse that way of thinking so that they want to row in the same direction as everyone else. So.
You mean we can't push them out of the boat?
No, yeah. Human resource would say no.
Okay. Just making sure. Murph, we'll stay with you. Father talked about leisure, and he specifically brought that up as the virtue that it's intended to be. And a lot of people, and we try to still instill this into our students, is that leisure is not recreation or amusement, which can be a part of that, but it really should be that non-activity of contemplation. How do you pour into yourself because of your giving nature so that you have more to give?
So through my entire career, and I think a lot in this room have probably heard this term of art, work-life balance. If anybody really knows what that is, stick around afterwards and really would appreciate you sharing that with me. Because I to this date have not ever figured out what that really is. Again, my wife has been great about that. We're just very honest, and she will say, you've committed too much time to X, right? Now it's time to, give more time back to the family or give more time back, somewhere else. Leisure is kind of what fills your tank. It's what you look forward to doing. I will tell you that I'll take my son and son-in-law hunting in the western part of the state, and it's not leisurely to hoof up and down those badlands. They're obviously much younger and easier, so I'm more of the poster at this point in my life. But that fills my tank. It gives me a chance to spend time with my son and my son-in-law and just really enjoy those times and build those memories. So I think if you look at the way Father talked about it, if you are living your life backwards, then I would challenge you to really kind of focus on his piece of that, because that was fantastic. And look for somebody like my wife Laura that will help you identify that. Man, you're backwards. And you really need to, take accountability of kind of what's going on right now. There'll be ebbs and flows in your career. There'll be times that you just feel, you are so committed. And I'm sure you're feeling it now in school. As Father talked about, there's times where, how do I go to my job, get my schoolwork done, have any sort of social life or anything like that? Man, it just feels like the weight of the world is on you. He also mentioned that that's not going to change, when you enter into the work world. The elements will change a little bit, but you're still going to feel like, how do I get all this done, right? 10 pounds of sugar in a 5-pound bag type of deal. I'm not a great witness for you, quite frankly, as it applies to leisure. It is an area of my life that I have constantly had to reevaluate and work on. And again, with the blessing, of having a partner in life that will challenge you in a very loving way to make sure that you kind of check yourself at the door. You're like, well, you are right. I am way out of balance. And you'll eventually start to get to that point in your life where you'll see those triggers of imbalance. Mine is, if we're at home and I'm completely out of balance, she'll take something out and I'll put it away immediately, right? Because the way for me to handle my imbalance is just to have calmness and not chaos, or stuff all over. It's terrible when she's cooking or baking, right? Because as soon as she takes the flour out, I put it right back, and she's like, "Where's the flour?" And I obviously say, "I don't know. I don't know what you did with it." But you'll pick up on those cues in your life, and those will be those red flags. Be like, "All right, I need to reverse the way this bus is going." Right? Got you 2 for there, right? Reverse your life and the bus. So
You obviously have that accountability partner in your life.
I have for years. Yes.
Great. You.
Yes, I would agree with Murph that I actually don't like the term work-life balance because I don't think it's ever in balance. I think it's how you manage it. Being a wife, a mother, a business owner, that's a lot. I also sit on the school board for Manning, which is just the little country school just southeast of here. So there's a lot that I do and take on. But if I manage it correctly and I take that time to step back, it's, as Father said, I get that question all the time. How the heck do you manage all of that? I just do, right? I take that step back and I make sure I do things for myself. My clients know that I will not answer my phone after between 6 and 7 because I do have a family and that needs to take priority. And I set that precedence on the front side. I will let them know, I am a business owner. I will help you as an agent as much as I can during this time frame, but outside of that, I need to be a wife, a mom, everything else. As my bio said, we have a small ranch just southeast of here, and part of filling my cup is watching the sunrises on one side and the sunsets on the other. Being out with the animals and just kind of being in nature. Another thing, we both are hunters as well. So this past fall, I was in Montana elk hunting, and just like you said, the climb, right? That is not fun with a big pack on your back. That doesn't seem like leisure, but once you get to the top and you can see everything and you see God's beauty in nature, that's what fills my cup and reminds me to be creative in what I'm doing.
So we go off script. This is a bait and switch. I brought you here. I gave you some questions. Now we're going to see your impromptu-ness that you go
I already
through
told
here.
you I don't like that.
Yeah, I know. We're going to put you outside of your comfort zone. Mentoring. Who has been a great mentor, and how do you plan on paying that back, if at all?
Good question. So Kyle Hoegner, who was my former business partner, has been a huge mentor for me, and Carl. Both of them have probably really led me to where I am at today. And eventually I do want to give that back. MJ, maybe. We've talked a few times. So I would like to do that. I don't know what that looks like or the capacity, but right now it's my team and just kind of mentoring them like Kyle did for me.
And one of the things you mentioned, I'm just going to stay with you for a second because you had a family-owned business. Mm-hmm. You were a part of that business. Your sister was a part of that business. That's how I kind of got to know you and when I got to know you. How has that played in them? Have they stayed out of your business affairs, or have they offered you advice? How has that played out, that interaction between these two dynamics that you had in your life?
My dad was an entrepreneur, obviously, so he definitely shares his opinion and talks about business. And I look to him also, like, hey, Dad, this is happening, or this is what's going on with some employee. How would you handle that? Or when I'm building this company, like, what does that look like? So I think those conversations have been good. My mom and sister are completely opposite of my dad and myself, and they're pretty quiet and reserved, so they don't really say a whole lot.
Excellent. Murph, how about you?
I've had a lot of opportunities to be mentored, some good, some not good. But I have taken those skills and abilities that were imparted on me, and I've tried to pay that forward as much as I can. I work in an organization where that is a high commodity and high demand to mentor and train and equip. And really, it's in our organization, it's asked 2 layers down. So somebody 2 layers down from you should be able to replace you and do your job. And that is really epitomized on the battlefield. So if something unfortunately happens to somebody, you have to be able to step up to that next layer. So my whole career, right, 3+ decades of wearing this uniform has always been that mantra. 2 layers down to be able to do my boss's job. And so I've tried to impart that on my kids, and certainly those that I work with, for, and around. And I mentioned it earlier, it's super rewarding and super fulfilling when those folks reach a layer where they're now making that impact in the organization, and they come back and share, or you see it firsthand. Absolutely love it.
Murph, we'll stay with you on this. We talk about virtuous leadership in here. You had to have had some examples of the good and the bad. You mentioned that from a mentorship side of things. What was the greatest thing that contributed to your leadership style? And then what was the one piece of leadership that you said, I will never be like X?
Absolutely. So I paid attention and I learned, and eventually I made up my own term, and I call it Murphy's second layer of leadership. And so they're literally, I probably stole it out of a book somewhere, and I have just coined it, so no copyright infringement here of sorts. But what I mean by that is the folks that you work with and around, you just don't know that they went on vacation. You know where they went. You just don't know that they have kids. You know their names of their kids. You just don't know that they have a parent maybe that has some issues or illnesses, but you know what it is, and you understand that they're just in a time of trial right now, and they might need a little more patience, a little more prudence, that they might be a little shorter at work, might be a little more distracted at work. So the first thing that I really learned from a mentor was care. That's first and foremost. If you care for people, you're going to be amazed that they will run through a wall for you when it's needed. The piece that I took and threw away was self before others. And it's quite frankly easy to do in the workplace and easy to do in the military. When something good happens, that person at the head of the formation certainly could take all the credit. Certainly could say, look what I did. Not even understanding it's on the backs of 200 or 300 people standing behind you. So in my career, I have reversed that, and I mentioned it earlier. I've really not cared so much myself about awards or rewards. That has not been something that has filled my tank, which in that case, it has provided a great opportunity for me to put all the accolades on the folks that truly, really did the work and deserve it. And you know what, in the end, your boss and your boss's boss, they know that it all doesn't come together on its own. They know that it takes a strong leader at the front of that formation to pull that all together. But to me, I didn't care if it was said, because I saw what happened. And what happened is great things.
Excellent.
So I'll start with the bad and go into the good. So I think the maybe not so good part of it is at that company that I said Kyle and I were at before, I was not allowed to be on like any brochures. I basically did not exist in the company. And we don't know exactly why, but we had the feeling that it was, he had a son that was the same age as me, and he felt like maybe I was in competition. And that's why we said with CRA, there will never be that. It needs to be a team. We're not, yes, we do different deals and win different deals, but we're never going to compete against each other. We're going to work together as a team. So I think that would probably be the foremost thing. I also think forward thinking, and previously there was this is how it's done, it's always been done this way, that's just how it is. And I like to ask my team, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is how we've done in the past, how can we improve, and get their feedback and opinion so that they feel like they matter as well and their opinion matters. On the good side of things, I think the best thing, like you said, the care, and then just positive leadership, meaning, I talked about it a little bit before, like each person's gifts and strengths, really focus on those rather than, you know, in like a typical review from a leader, you get, well, this is what you can work on, this is, you know, maybe not your strength, let's grow this or whatever to be better. I think if you kind of, I mean, you don't want to put those to the side, but if you focus on like what are you doing good at, that brings their demeanor and everything higher, and they want to focus on that rather than focusing on the negative all of the time.
Excellent. My last question, and I want to open it up, and I expect some questions from this intellectual audience here. Kind of a job interview. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
It's a great question. I just took over as being the sole owner, so for me it's a little bit hard to think quite that far because I'm trying to be in the trenches right now. But I definitely want to be more of a leader in our organization, and like I said, I'm going to these leadership programs and trying to learn how to lead better and bring these people along with me. I still will be at CRA. My kids will be, gosh, Kinsey will be 17, so she'll almost be graduating. So that could be a little different, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that one.
And maybe MJ's in there?
Yep.
Murph, how about you?
So my daughter was supposed to be in the audience. If she is, this is not for attribution. I'm going to be spoiling grandbabies. Yeah, so I've started joking at work, instead of number of years that I have left to work, I start talking about fiscal years because it seems a little shorter. So I have about 3.5 fiscal years to go to retire. And then I'm going to be the best grandpa I can be.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. It is a wonderful thing.
I can't wait.
We have microphones. We have people who have thoughts in their heads that just have to express them to one or both of our speakers. Please, we have a few minutes here. Let's get them some questions. Stump them if you want to.
We live in a world that's very passive, a very passive culture, and corporate America is kind of built on the foundation of driven, like we just work. So how do you instill a culture of intentionality within this foundation of corporate America where we're always driven to accomplish the next goal?
It's a great question. I kind of touched on it earlier that like I'm a very driven person, and I have all sorts of ideas that like, hey, I should do this, hey, I should do that. But that's not going to get me anywhere. And I tell my team that my family comes first and my mental health comes first. So even though everyone's driven and needs to get different places and they feel like they need to be accomplishing more, I guess, I think that I accomplish more by being more centered and focusing on what's in front of me. Does that kind of answer your question?
I had a boss once give me this analogy. He said, I'm the big cog in the room. Okay? I'm like, oh, big cog, right? And he says, every time I do one tick, all the other cogs around the wheel have to click 3 to 4 to 5 times to keep up with me. Okay? So if you as a leader are spinning that thing like the washing machine, you can imagine what that's doing to the folks that work with you and for you. So the intentionality that you talked about is understand that the faster you click, the faster everyone that works with you has to tick. And so if you can slow down that cog and allow those people that work with you and around you to catch up, to catch their breath, or at least accomplish a project you gave them in the first place, that's where you made money. So understand that. The faster you tick, the faster your OODA loop moops, the faster everyone around you has to OODA loop.
Dr. Seuss, Dr. Murph.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if the degree that you got, like your bachelor's degree and your master's degree, did you see that where you are today, is that what you kind of expected your path to go on when you started at college or at UMary?
Well, thank you, young lady. That was more than 3 decades ago. So, no, not the path that I originally thought. I'm more focused on the, I call it the freebie, my master's that I did, right? I picked organizational leadership for 2 reasons. One, I was super interested in that, right? Building teams. At that point in my career, I was more leading teams than necessarily being part of a team of sorts, if you know what I'm saying. And I didn't want to do the math piece of the MBA. That's a true statement. So for me, yes, I thought the MOL program was fantastic, and I really took a lot out of it. And a lot of what I took to work. And we would talk through different things over a cup of coffee with either, my peers or, folks close to me in the office. And I think one of the first things I said is life is all about lifelong learning in some degree, way, shape, or form. And I encourage you to just take that in, whether it's through professional organizations, whether it's through schooling, whether it's through whatever it is. You'll be provided those opportunities in your career to be part of working groups or some sort of a committee or something like that. Take those challenges on because you're going to learn a lot from them. Not all. Some will be like, well, that guy was all wet. That's so boring. But for the most part, you're going to learn and take something away.
As we talked about earlier, that I did not know that I was going to be in commercial real estate, or own my own brokerage. I did know that I wanted to be an entrepreneur because I watched that through my dad and my grandfather. So I graduated from here with a double major in business administration and marketing. So I felt like those were good foundations for something in business or entrepreneurial, but I didn't know what that would end up being. And yes, I do use those both on a daily basis.
Other questions? Well, faculty, good.
Hey, Colonel Murphy,
I'm
sir.
proud.
Oh, we got one over there. Hey, what advice would you give to like a transitioning veteran who misses that kind of leadership, misses being the leader or being the follower in a really structured group like that?
Oof, great question. My son challenged me here this week with, you've been running this pace for 30 years. And in 3 FYs, you're not running at that pace anymore. How are you going to handle that? So me looking at you, I'm facing sort of a similar situation, and I don't know if I didn't have a good answer for him. I don't know if I have a great answer for you. Obviously, there's a lot of opportunities to invest your time back into veteran type organizations. It's a camaraderie that you just can't explain to others. And it's very hard to duplicate that in other areas. I'm looking at you, I can see that you're understanding what I'm saying, and you're looking at me thinking, yeah, he's been doing it for 50 more years, but he gets it, right? It's hard to duplicate that. And is anybody familiar with Simon Sinek? In here, got some heads going up and down. A few years ago, I had a chance to see him speak, and obviously, the thing I took away from his talk that day, it's in his books and all that, is your why. What's your why in life? What's your why going to school? What's your why at the workplace? What is your why, right? And if you can't define your why, or if you find yourself questioning your why at work, then maybe not your path, maybe not your calling. I had a whole different career up until I was 35 years old. I wore the uniform on the weekends, but I wasn't full-time. And in 2005, at 35 years old, I left a very, very successful career to take a chance on doing this full-time because I felt that was my why. I felt that I had more to give to an organization and to people than I was doing in the outside world. So I've been doing this now full-time for 20 years, and I have found it incredibly rewarding. So I didn't really answer your question, brother. Again, it's hard to duplicate it. I'm just maybe challenging you to go find your why. You know, what's the QBQ, right? The question behind that question. Ask yourself why, and seek out to plant yourself where you're going to grow.
You've got the whole alphabet working here. Sheldon, go ahead.
Thank you both. They have had great careers. Looking back now, since you've been in your career, what is the one thing you wished you knew on or did when you were sitting in the seats like these people are right now that you'd have done differently or wish you knew?
I wish I knew about crypto a long time ago. Don't be bashful, and what I mean by this is seek out mentors. Don't leave questions on the table if you're not really sure at work. I've been a supervisor and a leader of troops for a lot of years, and what I've learned is it's that question that's left on the table that either lingers, pushes people out of your organization. So at your point in your career, be the person that knocks on your boss's door and asks those hard questions, because they shouldn't be scared of them. And then at a point in your life where you make that transition that now they're walking into your door, leave your door open. Allow that door to be open so people can come and ask you hard questions. You manage your career. You're the one that best knows it the best. So don't expect other people to manage your career. You're just setting yourself up for failure.
I talked about it a little bit before, but that courage and like being able to step yourself out of your comfort zone and push yourself out. I wish I would have done that earlier in my career, and I've definitely grown, as Karel can attest to, with that. And I think that will just push you further in life in general and in business.
Let's give it up to both of these.